All right, welcome. It is 5 o'clock on October 16, 2023. This is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We will begin tonight with an invocation by Pastor Daniel Seabaugh of LaCroix Church in Cape Girardeau, and then follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all would please rise and join us.
Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, God, thank you for this day. Lord, as I was driving down here this evening, just reminded, God, of the beauty of your creation. Lord, what a fabulous day, wonderful temps, beautiful sunshine. Thank you that you are a creative God. And thank you, Lord, that you are a God who didn't just create the world and then leave us to go about our business, but God, you can be known. And you want to be known, and you know us, and you love us, and you created us. You're crazy about us. God, thank you that you sent your Son, that we can know you. We can know your heart. We can know your ways. Jesus, would you send your Spirit upon this meeting? God, that as we meet to discuss this city, the city we love, Lord, the city that we call home, would you come, send your Spirit, and guide our discussion? Lord, help us to remember that each person in this city, each person in this room is created and loved by you. God, that each one of us, created in your image, Lord, are worthy of respect. And so I just pray, God, as we discuss all the matters before us this evening, that we would remember, Lord, each person who's coming, Lord, with their concerns, their desires, Lord, that we would remember that we are worthy of respect and that we would treat one another with respect, Jesus. God, bless this meeting, bless these council members, bless every person who is here. God, we love you and so grateful for what you're doing in our world. We pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We have no study sessions tonight. We do have a presentation regarding the employee health insurance renewal. It's a insurance renewal. I believe Ms. Snyder.
Thank you. Good evening. Just to give you a little history of our health insurance before I have our speaker speak, the city's used Anthem as our TPA since 2001, and we've used CBIZ since 2003. As the cost of healthcare continues to increase, in the last 2 years, the city has taken measures not to pass these increases onto our employees. Last year's renewal, we were given a 16% increase to premiums cost, which city management did not want to pass on to our employees, and we absorbed the increase. In addition, last fiscal year, the city funded a $960,000 deficit to our health fund. Our renewal for 2024 has an increase of 25.3% in premiums, which the city does not have the funding to absorb, and city management does not want to pass that increase on to employees. In an effort to decrease the city's costs and not pass costs on to employees, city management eliminated our contract with CBIZ and completed an RFP for TPA services. When we evaluated the bids for TPA services, we have found a TPA that will save the city in administrative fees, with eliminating the broker and making the change to the new TPA. The city will save an estimated $125,000. In addition, the TPA will have a unique approach with healthcare, which will increase savings on the medical costs, creating a win-win for the employer and the employee. To speak about the TPA we have chosen and the unique approach to save additional money, we have Neil Glass and Jeremy Billington with Insurance Risk Management Associates to represent Crescent Health Solutions.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Ms. Mills, thank you. You just thought you were getting rid of me. It's great to be here tonight to talk on behalf of the city's health insurance plan. I'm very excited, Mayor, Dr. Haskins, council members. It's exciting for me to be able to offer a unique approach to the city's healthcare, one that I'm very familiar with. When I came to Cape Girardeau Public Schools in 2008, we were kind of in the same situation. We were experiencing 8, 10, 12, 16% increases on an annual basis. That was in 2008. I took over as a CFO around 2010, 2011, and all the new tax revenue that we had coming in was going first to benefits, to maintain those benefits that we promised our employees. But then whatever was left over, then we put to our salary schedules. We were getting further and further behind, and I know you can appreciate that. When you look at your city employees and you only got a pot, so much in the pot to disperse from that new assessment that's coming in your tax base, you got to make a tough decision. You're going to pass that on to your employees, or you're going to absorb it and then put a little bit towards the salary schedules. And that's what we were faced. So in 2014, we decided to take a hard look. We were fully insured at the time, and in 2015, we made the leap to go partially self-funded. That was the best decision Cape Girardeau Public Schools ever made. And since 2015 to 2023, when I left as the superintendent of schools, I had the direct oversight of that healthcare plan. I'm very passionate about that plan because I know the power of that plan. We're one of the top salary schedules in Southeast Missouri because we have controlled our health insurance costs. In 2015, not only after that first year, not only did we maintain our costs, but we lowered our premiums. We were $550 a month. We went down to $500 a month. We've maintained that for 8 years. Where else can you look that says we've maintained that for 8 years, your health insurance costs? And we've done it. Not only have we maintained it, but we've also billed benefits. We had a direct primary care that's here in town. So we partnered with them. We offered a free gym membership to all our employees, no charge. We lowered our deductibles. We had to find creative ways to spend some of the benefit dollars that we weren't using. And we did that. And we have one of the most robust benefit packages around. I mean, there's not a school district that I know of that can compete with it. And I think we can do the exact same thing for the city. So fast forward 2023, we're still maintaining the same premium. We still have a very healthy fund balance. And so when I came out of retirement, I knew that we needed to pass this on to other organizations, other entities, municipalities being one of those. And so my partner and I, Jeremy Billington, Jeremy's the one that brought the healthcare plan to us back in 2015. I said, we need to make this a Missouri-based company, and we need to go out and we need to promote this to any municipality, any school district that'll listen, because this works. And so that's what we did. So he and I went and we started Insurance Risk Management Associates. We partnered with Crescent Health Solutions, which is the TPA out of North Carolina. We've got a health magazine that we've partnered with. We've got Script Care, which is your pharmacy-based management company. And we've got a lot of people on board ready to take the City of Cape Girardeau on. And so I'm very excited. I know that you're going to see some tremendous savings. And we have some very unique cost controls that we're going to pass along to the city that we've been utilizing and we've been overseeing at Cape Girardeau Public Schools for, again, the past 8 years. So with that said, I won't prolong this presentation, but I'll open it up for questions. If I can't answer them, I know my partner, who has had 20 years in the insurance industry, can answer those questions for you.
Council, do you have any questions?
I will probably have questions, and it just might come as we start to roll through some of our insurance conversations, especially when it comes to HR. So as of right this moment, I don't, but I have a feeling in the coming coming couple of weeks, I probably will. So sorry.
No, that's perfectly acceptable. I just know how powerful it's going to be for the council when we come back a year from now and we have to assess where we're at. You guys are going to be very excited about what you can pass on to your employees.
Well, this is part of the consent agenda tonight.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think now would be a good time for questions.
No, this would be
There are-
great.
yeah.
Actually, if Heather, if you wouldn't mind jumping back up. I'm sorry, Gina, I just called you Heather. I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay.
So to the ordinary citizen or the ordinary staff member here in the City of Cape, what kind of differences are they going to see?
So depending on what kind of situation they have, they offer different plans. So if maybe as an employee, your spouse has health insurance for you and your family, then you can get on an MRP plan with us that anything you're out, deductibles, co-insurance, co-payments is reimbursed to you at no additional cost to you as the employee. If you have a medical procedure coming up that would be over $25,000, you would get with HR, we would set you up on the ACP, and then you would be out zero. I have seen it work on the employee side and the employer side. Cape County also does this as well.
So it's not just, is it standard self-insurance or is it
It is.
Okay.
So-
partial self-insurance? All right.
So we currently have a stop loss of $150,000. We're looking at reducing that to $100,000 and still saving money in the premium.
Can you address some of the other cost-saving controls that you mentioned?
Yeah, so Jeremy's probably better at those cost controls than I am, but we have four different plans.
Okay.
And they're all named, but she mentioned one, the MRP, which is medical reimbursement plan. So if you have other insurance with other companies or TRICARE, because you had service or whatever, that medical reimbursement plan is a huge benefit for the families. They're paid at 100% out-of-pocket expenses by having other insurance, other places. If you're on Medicare, Medicaid, those are also cost savings, cost controls that we've got written into our plan. And then we have the ACP, which is for those that have extreme illnesses. We've got cost controls for those that have anything that is projected to be over $30,000. We have unique cost controls for that. So that, they're already going through a hardship, right? We need to ease that financial burden because they're going through that hardship, and we've got cost controls to do that too, where they're not any out-of-pocket expenses for that. That's been a tremendous benefit for my employees. I've seen some employees go through some tremendously hard things, and for us to be able to come and say, hey, you take care of yourself, we got the finances. It's been a blessing.
The one question I always get whenever it comes to healthcare, does anybody have to change their doctor?
Has anybody ever changed?
No, does anybody have to? Any of the employees that are here covered under this coverage, will they have to make any changes to the?
Right now, we haven't, that would be like if you wanted to go into a narrow network, which we
Sure.
haven't had those conversations.
Okay.
That would be up to the council, but that would be a cost control if you wanted to broach that subject. But that's not on the table at this point.
All right, that's great. It's good to hear. I just know that that's always a top of mind whenever people talk to us about health insurance.
Sure.
I have a question, Mayor. Do you, is it, a lot of people have a hard time if they have pre-existing conditions. Is that, what upside do your company would do for those with pre-existing conditions?
Well, if they're pre-existing conditions and they're significant.
Yes,
then
like
that
cancer.
That ACP that I've been talking about, that would be our go-to. And when we do open enrollment, we're going to take all that information. We're going to have it down on a card. So we're going to kind of custom fit
Mhm.
these plans to each of those employees. We're going to have conversations.
Mhm.
What are they going through? What struggles are they having medically? And we're going to be able to fit that plan with their need.
I just appreciate your testimonial, if you will, with your track record, with the
Thank you.
success of this at
Very
the
passionate about it.
Cape Public Schools. This is for any of us that have employees that have businesses, this is a pain point every year for our renewals, and it's increases the cost of doing business. For the city, it increases the cost of operating this city. And it's hard then to go back and then give the raises and the wage increases, et cetera, when these are going up at such a astronomical rate. And so I'm excited at the potential to see what innovative approaches you have to help lower that for our employees. I know in the short time I've been on council, there's been a couple different here and there opportunities that have presented themselves and none of them really panned out. So I'm excited to see what the potential is for this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all the questions right now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks so much. All right. Next, we'll move into communications reports. Council, anything to share?
I'm going to jump in and just give a congratulations to Southeast Missouri State University for another successful homecoming and a successful football game on Saturday. It was a little bit of a gray weather, spitting rain, but I think a lot of people had fun. If anybody drove down Broadway on Saturday, you can tell there were probably a lot of people that had some fun. But definitely a good event. It's excellent to see that amount of enthusiasm in the community. And that's it.
Anybody else?
I'm going to potentially steal somebody's thunder here and say that, and 2 weekends ago, there was, well, first of all, there were two events in town. A couple weekends ago, there was the Old Town Cape Revivify, but then 2 weeks ago, there was Porch had their sneaker ball, the inaugural sneaker ball, which I unfortunately, my wife and I were not able to attend, but I've spoken to so many people that were there, and such an amazing event. As you know, Tameka is the head of that, and goes towards such a great cause and for our kids and for our school system. And so just wanted to recommend Councilwoman Randle for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other reports? Okay. Moving on to discussion items. First, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to appear as an advisory board applicant? If so, come on up and introduce yourself and tell us what you're.
Madam Mayor, council members, Dr. Haskin, my name is Jeremy Nichols. I live at 1330 Rosewood here in Ward 6. I throw my name in the hat through the application portal for both the Planning and Zoning and Parks and Rec Advisory Boards. I figured come out here and at least make it known and take up a little bit of time before the regular meeting at 6. But my wife and 3 young children, we all live here in town for the last 7 years after a career I had in the Army. This was my last duty station, and we decided to get out of the Army and stay here in Cape. We chose Cape because we love it. A great community, just really pulled us in. We're Central Illinois natives originally, but as our young kids use the Park and Rec system, or we see Cape developing, we felt it necessary to throw my name in for either one of those 2 advisory boards. So that's kind of why I'm here tonight, just to say I exist and not just a name on a page. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nichols. Anyone else wishing to appear? No? Okay. Moving on then is we have a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Blank.
Good evening, everybody. All right, so for the October the 10th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we had two applications. The first of these being at 406 Bertling Street, rezoning applicant Bill and Joanne Adams to request rezoning from property from R1 single family suburban residential to RUMD, which is residential urban mixed use, or I'm sorry, residential urban mixed density. Was supported by city staff. The request to rezone to RUMD ended in a split vote of 4-4. And after more discussion by the Planning and Zoning Commission, we recommend rezoning the property to R3, and that motion passed. So before I move on to number 2, is there any questions with that application?
Yeah, was it a unanimous vote on the second, on the R3?
No, it was 6-2.
Okay.
And that'll be coming before the council. in
I'm
the
sorry?
future. That will be coming to the council in the future.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
What were some of the reservations for the commission? Because typically, y'all don't usually say tie and then have to discuss it. What were some of the reservations some of the commissioners had?
Some of the reservations was listening to the opposition that came before us that evening. There were some concerns about traffic. There were some concerns from the neighbors of what went in there, potentially what went in there. It's my understanding that the property owner is wishing to sell the property. So they're looking for as broad a a stance on that as they can get in order to do that and market it. So there were some concerns about what that brought.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Second was property at the southeast and southwest corners of Route K and Notre Dame Drive rezoning. Applicants Mid-America Hotel Corporation on behalf of the James L. and Wanda L. Drury Trust to request rezoning at the southeast and southwest corner of Route K and Notre Dame Drive from R1, which is single-family suburban residential, to C2 highway commercial. And this was recommended for approval. Any questions on this application? All right.
No.
Thank you all.
Is that it? Thank you. And last for discussion, we have the consent agenda review. Dr. Haskin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have 3 items that we added to the consent for your review. Items number 9, 10, and 11. We'd like for you to consider the agreement that we have before you with Penzel Construction to restore and repair the City's Hall fountain. That thing has been in disarray for quite some time, and I know you all have had some concerns about it. So we feel like this agreement with Penzel will go a long way in addressing that need. And of course, number 10, we have a demolition contract on the table. Again, we're excited to move forward with demoing some of these structures that have been ailing the city for many decades. And this agreement or contract with Steve's Hauling for the demo of various buildings across the city. And of course, number 11, we have a request, as you've already heard. We need your support for Crescent Health as our TPA for health insurance, estimated savings of about $125,000 per year. Mayor, that would conclude the consent review.
All right. Thank you. We'll now move into regular session and begin with the call to order and the roll call vote. Mr. Taylor.
Mark Bliss. Robbie Guard is absent. Stacy Kinder.
Here.
Dan Presson.
Here.
Tameka Randle.
Here.
Nate Thomas.
Here.
Shannon Truxel is absent.
All right, thank you. Council, we have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor then of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the agenda carries. We have 2 public hearings tonight. And these items then are also showing up under new ordinances under in our business portion of our meeting. First, I will open the public hearing to consider a proposed amendment to Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding CBD Central Business District. Is there anyone who wishes to appear in this public hearing? No? All right. Seeing none, I will close that public hearing. And then secondly, I will open a public hearing to consider a proposed amendment to Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding temporary uses. Anyone wishing to appear for that public hearing? Hearing none then, I will close that public hearing. We will move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Young.
Bill 23-150, an ordinance approving the record plat of Wade First subdivision. Bill 23-150, an ordinance approving the record plat of Wade First subdivision. Bill 23-151, an ordinance granting a special use permit to BB Run LLC for the purposes of constructing, maintaining, and operating a telecommunications tower at 1351 Southwest End Boulevard in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-151, an ordinance granting a special use permit to BB Run LLC for purposes of constructing, maintaining, and operating a telecommunications tower at 1351 Southwest End Boulevard in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-152, an ordinance vacating the city's interest in a portion of the utility easement located at 2183 Derbyshire Lane in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-152, an ordinance vacating the city's interest in a portion of utility easement located at 2183 Derbyshire Lane in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-154, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a special warranty deed to 630 Inc. for property along the right-of-way located at 2078 Southern Expressway in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-154, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a special warranty deed to 630 Inc. for property along the right-of-way located at 2078 Southern Expressway in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-155, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute grant agreement with Missouri Highways Transportation Commission to fund air service promotion and marketing at the Cape Girardeau Regional Airport. Bill 23-155, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement with Missouri Highways Transportation Commission to fund air service promotion and marketing at the Cape Girardeau Regional Airport. Bill 23-156, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Penn Construction Company, Inc. for the restoration of the City Hall fountain in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-157, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute demolition contract with Steve's Hauling and Excavating LLC for the demolition of buildings at various locations in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-158, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute agreement with Crossing Health Solutions for employee health insurance services and authorizing certain actions by city officials in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
All right, thank you, Mr. Young. Council, there's a consent agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bliss, Mr. Thomas, any further discussion? All in favor then of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. We have 2 items removed from the consent agenda. First is Bill 23-145, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement in connection with the redevelopment projects described in the RCC Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan and authorizing certain actions by city officials. That's the second reading. The third reading is Bill 23-145, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement in connection with the redevelopment projects described in the RCC Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan and authorizing certain actions by city officials. Mr. Pulley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Dr. Haskin. This ordinance is for the redevelopment agreement for the second and third reading for the West Park Mall. If you have questions regarding moving forward, Mr. Grimm and Mr. Hanson are present.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to make a comment or question? Yes.
Good evening. My name's Dennis Follink, 1903 Sherwood Drive, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, retired. And Mayor Kinder, Dr. Haskin, members of the councils, I've been here before, so you know what my feeling is on the project itself. You know that I feel that it's excessive. And I know I'm not going to be here to change any minds. It's the second and the third readings as we're going forward right here. But I did really want to say, as a citizen here of Cape and a previous developer, that I'd like to pass on a couple points here as you guys move forward. First of all, like I said, I feel it's very excessive, which you know for the reasons we've talked about before. Second, I'd like to thank Councilman Randle for her great research she did into it, and also, you know, coming up with to that same conclusion that a lot of the local developers here have come in. Third, we know, as we talked before, does this set a precedence? Yes, it does. And it set a precedence that this is now the standards that you're going to be using as the council goes forward here. And also, you know, the other developers have even been chastised, or I think called foolish, because we haven't been asking for every option that's available on the table as previous developments. So, like I said, this is basically the full basket of any economic development tool that could be used is on this program, and that's why I feel it's excessive. But the other side of it is that it is now pretty much the standard as we're going forward, and I don't think the developers as they're going forward are going to be foolish anymore, and they're going to be coming to you to ask for these same type of packages as you're going forward. And I don't think that's the best thing for the city, but I think that's what's going to happen as we're going forward. The next one is blighted. Blighted is a very easy definition now to reach. And there's a lot of redevelopments and renovations of other properties in town that are going to be taken care of, taking here pretty quickly. And they're also going to be considered very easy to be called blighted at the same time. And the pro forma, like I said, the standard that the developer used for his pro forma now pretty much becomes the spreadsheet of what you guys are going to be coming back. And I've stressed before, that it's not just, there's 30 years of tax credits that's coming to the developer. It's not going to the store owners. It's not going to the people who are leasing the mall. It's going to the developer. And it is $148 million over that 30-year period of time. You present value it and only talk that number to 60, but it's still from the citizens of Cape and the citizens of this area, those taxes. And we say, well, they wouldn't be here anyway, but in reality, they are going to be here. That's you know, those arguments aren't 100% firm all the way through there. So, but basically it is that any 50% of the cost of the development could be justified now as you're going forward. And the other side of this, the other two quick points. 30 years is a long time, 22 years and the 22 years of the terms on the project. I really hope and we pray that for the city of Cape, that the mall is a moving development in 22 years and 30 years. But I don't think it's going to be what it is now after it goes through this renovation, because things are changing very rapidly as you go forward. And the odds of the taxes coming to you at those periods of time are very slim because of what's going to be happening. Remember, it's still going to be a 70-year-old facelift mall with old tenants in it. But can it make it? Yes. But only if the developer spends lots and lots of money as he goes forward here in the future, not with just doing a one-time facelift, taking the tax credits, and then not reinvesting much more than he has before, as the other people in town here at the hotels and the other sides reinvest in the properties all the time without excessive city help.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Falling, that was 3 minutes. That's your time.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
have
Thank you.
a summary statement, you can make that now.
I get a summary. That's good. Okay. No, they're really just really, like I said, is they want to wish the developer good luck and the city good luck here. But like I said, the points are is that it is excessive, and the odds of it doing what it said it's going to be doing are very slim. And the question is, who's going to be answering for those decisions in the future? Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak?
Hi, I'm Elaine Edgar. I have a residence and a commercial property here in Cape Girardeau. I'd really just like to take this opportunity to express the fact that I would have loved to seen this council be more involved in listening to our citizens regarding this mall project. We have some amazing financial investors in our area with the juries, with the roads, and it seems to me everybody's got up and said the same thing, that we were all in favor of growth and development in this area. It was just the way that it's drawn up and that it's planned, that there's so much opposition to it. And with the fact that we have the experience of these people standing up trying to give advice to maybe people who have never dealt with a project of this size and putting this liability on our city, I think it's very concerning. I know that I usually try to attend these meetings. If I don't attend them, I try to watch them online. I know that one of the previous ones, Mr. Thomas made a comment about the success from this project could possibly bring us more funds to increase our public safety. And our public safety is a huge issue right now. It is getting worse by the day. And I don't want my public safety in this town to be contingent upon if this mall project is successful. I understand there's different budgets that cover different components of salaries in this area. And I understand that that budget for our public safety is probably already to the extent of what it can be, but I need to ask you to go back in and look at the different budgets. We need to be working together as a whole, not being divisive, and looking at our priorities. And to me, the number one priority that needs to be addressed right now is our security. And number two is letting all of our community be involved in decisions, especially as something as big as this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edgar. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Yes.
Good evening, Ramona Bailey, resident of Cape Girardeau. I do like to shop. So I don't know if I got in on those, what stores would possibly be coming in. If y'all could give an update on that, I would like to know. And also with having a brick and mortar shopping, do you think that that would cut into the use tax that they did for the internet sales and stuff that we passed? Do you think that that would cut into that, the monies that was supposed to come from that revenue with people shopping in a brick and mortar building? That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Can we handle that as fine?
When we have it up on the, we can bring that up when we take it up. We have time for one more, if anybody else in the audience wishes to comment. Okay. Council then, we have Bill 23-145 before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Presson, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Thomas? Discussion.
Ramona, I just want to say, so, the mall's always been there, even before the use tax. And so I think there are going to be people that choose to shop online, and then there are other people that just like to feel the fabric. And so it's appealing to all the audiences to make sure that we've got, got retail for those that want to shop in person. And then obviously online is now the easy and convenient option. And so I don't foresee it cutting into the use tax. I actually see it adding to our retail sales tax, going back to having that flourishing mall, being able to get people in from out of town. I always do think about the weekend visitor that likes to come in and do some shopping, stay in a hotel, eat in the restaurants, and just gives people more of that destination feel. I always see Cape Girardeau as a really great weekend place for people. Obviously, it's a great place for people to retire and live and everything. But if you're coming into town for go to a youth sports event, or if you're coming to town, go to a university event or going to the casino or anything like that, just it rounds out all of our ability to help that person stay in the community and enjoy it as much as possible. So I just wanted to fill that, or, just answer that really quick for you.
So I'd like to just mention that, again, that sales tax revenue from the mall areas continue to decline. Over the last 2 years, it's dropped by like 43%. If something is not done to redevelop this property, it is going to continue to decline. And the city of Cape Girardeau is heavily dependent on sales tax revenue. And so other city services that people want will be impacted if this mall is not redeveloped. And you can argue that, well, private development should do it all, but we've had years of this development going down. It has not been fiscally possible to redevelop this property without tax incentives. And I think that in the long run, this redevelopment will lead to increased sales tax revenue, which will allow us to better fund city services.
Anyone else? Yes.
Say something. I'm still opposed to the mall, so nothing has changed. I have a few statements and things I'd like to submit into record. As more and more people and groups review the massive amount of incentives that will be given to the West Park Mall developers, it is clear that the entire project is ill-conceived, greedy, and not in the best interest of taxpayers. Today, we have received yet another statement. Our own county commission questions the legalities of using bonding for this project. Again, I urge the council to exercise fiscal accountability and vote no. I would like to submit the letter from the Cape Girardeau County Commission as part of the record, and I would like to read the last 2 paragraphs. So I'll ask the mayor to submit this into record. And we received this today from the County Commission. As conceived, the proposed project does not involve manufacturing, warehousing, or industrial development, and it is not contemplated to include a warehouse, distribution facility, research and development facility, office industry, agriculture processing industry, service facility, which provides interstate commerce, industrial plant. Retail space and restaurants are not of the like factor of substance with respect to the types of projects contemplated by the Missouri Constitution, and specifically Chapter 100. While the County Commission is in favor of redevelopment of the location, the use of the Missouri statutes, Chapter 100, industrial revenue bonds on this project is neither good public policy nor the right tool for this project. And there again, my statement in regards to that, and the County Commission is not in favor of Chapter 100 monies used for this project.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to make just a general statement. We talk about this development, we talk about how this development has gone forward. This development has gone forward with some of the best experts in this industry, talking to us about economic incentives, talking to us about financing. The development group that's actually put together this operation, or this new development, is not new to developing. They themselves have developed across the entire country. So this is not a new thing for any of these parties. Everybody has really put a lot of due diligence into this and made sure that we have paid attention to all of the fine details of this. This is, like I've said before, this is us investing in the future of Cape Girardeau. This is the city of Cape Girardeau making sure that every youth wants to stay here, that every youth sees sees the future for themselves in this community. Every person that's in this community wants to stay here, shop here, and be engaged, eat in our restaurants, and bring their families in to stay in our hotels. And so this is the future of Cape Girardeau, and I'm excited to see what the future of 2040 looks like in this community. And we've got a hallmark property right in the middle of town that needs assistance. This is an unusual one because this is a very large property with an existing structure. And so it does have the classification of meeting a lot of different elements for different economic incentive packages. So we have to take it differently. And yeah, there are big fields of empty ground that we can develop in the future. There are other things, but this one's special because it is right in the middle of the community. It is existing square footage, and it definitely needs that attention. Like I said before, this is Cape Girardeau 2040. We're looking towards the future. We're looking to make sure that every youth, every citizen, every retiree, everybody in this community is engaged, wants to stay here, and calls this place home.
Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. Given the length that we've had to consider this, we have had the great fortune, or I have at least, and I think I speak for other council members, of having lots of conversations about this. We have gotten to talk to numerous individuals all across our community, of all walks of life, of all occupations, of all just representing the full spectrum of our community, and get their opinion. And I will tell you of my experience communicating with those individuals that the vast majority, if not all of those individuals, with the exception, save for a few competing developers, are so excited for this project. And they agree with the yes vote for this moving forward, that something has to be done, and that this is a solution to an issue that we have before us. Which then brings me to, and I shared a little bit about this in my comments before and prior considerations of this, is, before us we have a vote, and the vote is for this agreement. We can vote yes for this agreement, or we can vote no against this agreement. And what does that no vote mean as I'm considering this as a council person? And if I vote no, my no vote, what am I voting for? My no vote would be voting for the status quo. My no vote would be saying that the status quo is acceptable. And I'm sorry, but I will argue that it is, in my opinion, the farthest thing from acceptable is what the condition of this property has been and where it's going and where it's been and where the data has shown. The status quo is declining revenue. The status quo is an aging building that's becoming less attractive for tenants. The status quo that I would be voting for with a no vote is a guarantee that next year I will have less money in the general fund to pay our police and our fire and other city operations. And the year after that, there will be even less money. And the year after that, there will be even less money. That's what my no vote would be. So we have an alternative in front of us instead of that no vote. And like I said, I've had a lot of conversations, and I've had the pleasure of talking with people that have been opposed to this project, and developers and entities that I respect the hell out of. Pardon my language, respect the world out of. And I posed them with the same question. Okay, I need to vote no on this. That's the only vote I have. Let's vote no. Let's kill it. It's dead in the water. They have to liquidate. You get the same property for the same price they did. Give me an alternative that has the same economic impact, but uses less tax incentives. And I said this last time, to this day, I have not gotten one solution or even a concept of a solution, which tells me that this is the best solution for this property that is so vital to our community. So I commend you for going forward. It's easy to come forward and say no. It's hard to come up with those solutions and those answers to the problem that is in front of us. And that's what you guys came to us with, and I appreciate you. I said it last time, and my 100% gung-ho and going into this, that this is what it was going to look like. No, but that's what negotiations are about. And I respect and I appreciate the measures that you took to help protect us as a city, the things that we had to have, and the protections and the clawbacks. But right now we have a vote. The vote is for this proposal. And the only other alternative is to do nothing for this property. And the ramification, I've seen it firsthand with malls of this same size in the town that I went to undergrad college in, that to this day, 10 years after it shuttered its walls, nothing is developed there. There's weeds taller than your vehicle. That we cannot have as the entry point into our city. So I appreciate what you go forward. I wish you all the success. And I look forward to seeing what the outcome is, because the alternative of doing nothing will leave us with a world of consequences that we as a city would have to figure out and have to face. So thank you guys again, and I look forward to it.
Thanks. On the question of the using the Chapter 100, that has been an issue that's been brought up, a question that's been brought up. We as a city have been advised that this is a perfectly acceptable process to use in this development agreement. Of course, the developers have been advised that, and we as a city have as well, despite perhaps our county commissioners feeling otherwise. I was wondering, Mr. Grimm, if I could put you on the spot for a moment as our advisor on this whole thing and on the intricate tax issues involved. I was wondering if you could share the advice you've given us regarding the appropriateness of this part of it.
Well, I respectfully disagree with the county commission's conclusion that Chapter 100 is not legally viable for this project. We've advised the city and other cities around the state that Chapter 100 bonds may be issued for all types of commercial projects. We think that is settled law by the Supreme Court. And so retail is a commercial project. So we think that that's an appropriate use of the tool. I do agree with the portion of the letter that says it's a policy issue for the council to decide.
Okay. Well, I think we've taken your advice on this issue, at least some of us. So without any further, I guess, discussion, Council, we have Bill 23-145 before us. All in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I oppose.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next is the second item removed from the consent agenda is Bill 23-149, an ordinance authorizing the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri to issue its taxable industrial revenue bonds, RCC project, Series 2023, for the purpose of providing funds to pay the costs of acquiring, constructing, and improving an industrial development project in the city, approving a plan for the project, and authorizing the city to enter into certain agreements and take certain other actions in connection therewith. That's the second reading. Forgive me. The third reading is Bill 23-149, an ordinance authorizing the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri to issue its taxable and industrial revenue bonds, RCC project, Series 2023, for the purpose of providing funds to pay the costs of acquiring, constructing, and improving an industrial development project in the city, approving a plan for the project, and authorizing the city to enter into certain agreements and take certain other actions in connection therewith. Mr. Polk, there you are.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep this one short. This is the ordinance allowing the City of Cape Girardeau to issue the taxable industrial bonds for the project of the River City LLC regarding the sales tax exemption on construction materials in connection with the construction of the West Park Mall.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to appear on this for this issue? Yes. A question. Yes. Come on. If you would come to the podium, please.
I just want to know how the bonds are going.
Okay, if you would come up to the podium. You know how this works. Don't act like you don't.
Yeah, I know. Mark Cook, retired educator here in Cape, got my baseball hat on today. Anyway, how do the bonds, that's the only, I totally support this whole thing, so we're not going to belabor that. How do the bonds work? I know how bonds work, but I want you to explain it.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Would you like to hop on up? Sure.
So it's important to remember that this is not a bond issue like the city would issue to finance this building or the school district would issue. These types of bonds are issued solely to provide the incentive of either partial real or personal property tax abatement, as we've done in other cases around the state, or in this instance, sales tax exemption on construction materials. So it's largely a paper transaction. The city will have a leasehold interest in the project during the construction period, which allows the city to give its sales tax exemption certificate, project exemption certificate to the developer to exempt the sales taxes on construction materials. So the city is not issuing any bonds to access capital. The developer doesn't get any money from the city. The developer is not using the bonds to access capital. As I said, it's largely a paper transaction solely to facilitate the sales tax exemption.
Okay.
Did that suffice?
Okay, well, that's totally different, okay. You want me to come back up?
Sure, yes, please.
Well, okay, I just want to be sure I understand. So what if, so you're selling bonds so you can get permission to, okay, you're selling bonds so you can get permission to use tax dollars? I don't understand that part of it.
Okay, Mr. Grimm, yeah.
Mark, don't go too far.
Yeah, just stay,
I'm not gonna go far. I'll sit right here.
Okay, there's no sale of the bonds. The developer will actually, a paper bond goes to the developer, but there's no sale of the bonds to the public or anybody else. And it's solely to allow the developer to access the same, when the city buys anything, construction materials or anything else, the city doesn't pay sales tax on those materials because it's a city project. This statute in the Missouri Supreme Court have said that this tool can be utilized where the city will have a leasehold interest in the project during the construction period to avail the developer of the same benefit that the city would have, the not paying sales taxes on construction materials. Okay, so all it does is exempt the project construction materials from sales tax. That's it. And if you, I'm going to be at the Scott County Commission meeting tomorrow morning explaining this to them, so you can.
Probably won't be there. Thank you. I've had more questions about the bond issue than anything else. So I wanted to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cook. Is anyone else in the audience wishing to ask a question or voice something? Okay, thank you. Council, then we have Bill 23-149 before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Presson, Mr. Bliss. Further discussion?
You know, it's complicated, especially when you're wrapping your head around these industrial revenue bonds for Chapter 100 use. But that's the reason why we've got this gentleman in the room right here. He is an expert, especially when it comes to economic development tax incentives across the state of Missouri. So thank you so much over the past couple of months for driving to Cape Girardeau. I know this is your home originally, but I'm sure you enjoy being here. But thank you very much for doing that.
Any other council members wishing to speak? All right, seeing none then, all in favor of Bill 23-149, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I oppose.
All right, that motion carries. We have 5 new ordinances. We'll take a moment if people wish to depart. Mr. Cook, you've got another meeting tomorrow morning that you have to go to. Okay. Moving on, we have 5 new ordinances to discuss. As we've seen, we will have time for audience discussion after presenting each of these. First, we have Bill 23-159, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, regarding CBD, Central Business District. This is the first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
Good evening. So the staff received a business license application for a kind of a tow truck auto repair business on a property that's zoned CBD, Central Business District. And that application was rejected because that use is not permitted in the CBD. The applicant then consulted with legal counsel and they filed a rezoning application for the property to rezone it to M1, which is an industrial district. That whole area is CBD. It really didn't make any sense. So I talked to the attorney, said staff can't support that. So then she asked if it might be possible to just amend the CBD section to add those vehicle type related uses to the special uses section of the CBD. So that doesn't make it by right, but that gives the applicant the opportunity to apply for a special use permit, which, as you've seen, recently, like the telecommunication tower, they have a specific plan. We're able to review it and impose conditions of approval if it does get approved. And so there's more safeguards involved in that. And that's because certain uses, could have a potential adverse effect on the surrounding properties. We've done a lot to improve the central business district. This particular area still is in process. It has a lot of ways to go, but again, we still want to make sure that, if those type of uses are established, that they're done in a manner that doesn't undo what we're trying to accomplish in the district.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak or ask a question? Okay, hearing none. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-159?
So moved.
Mr. Presson? Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Randle, thank you. Discussion.
So, of this request, and especially now that we're putting this into into a special use permit category, we're actually going to get more information about this going forward because the developer would have to come to us with a whole plan.
Yes.
And we'd have lots of opportunity to talk this over and hear from neighbors, hear from other folks in that area. So adding this as a little caveat into Chapter 30 makes a lot of sense because it actually allows for more public input. At least that's from my perspective.
And I want to point out, it's not just for that particular use of that business. It's for things like gas stations. I mean, folks downtown need to be able to get gas too. Right now, it's SEMO gas, or you've got to go further out on Independence Street or down on Sprague to get down to the roads. And so it involves those type of uses as well.
Well, I think that gets to my concern because this is specifically for the central business district.
Yes.
To amend or to in this case add a what do you call it, another use, possible use. Vehicle fueling, service or repair facilities, excluding paint or body shops. That would be added to this. That's what we're considering. I was struck by the language in our ordinances that specifically talks about the CBD, about the desire to preserve the historical nature. It seems like this is all. Our ordinance is really set up at this point to really limit and guard the types of facilities that can be in that area for good reason. If that's if the purpose is to really keep this of a certain nature, that area. And so I guess from what I'd like some guidance. I've been understanding that when things are allowed in a zoning designation, in other words, if we add vehicle fueling, gas stations to this category, then we are not allowed to really refuse those in the future when an application comes to us. Isn't that correct?
You would be able to deny it.
We would.
Yeah. By doing this, it
Under
doesn't
special
guarantee
uses,
that
that's-
any such use would be approved in the future. They would have to go through that process.
Because it's under special uses?
Yes. Yeah. If
Okay,
it was in the
explain-
permitted uses, then you'd be correct, that basically it's
Okay.
allowed.
I didn't catch
They
that.
can do it, you wouldn't have to get any approval, but that's the purpose of the special use permit is under there. It's vetted through staff, planning, zoning commission, council, just like a rezoning is. It's vetted, but the difference between that and rezoning is you can impose conditions of approval on it. And then like Councilman Presson said, that opens it up to more public scrutiny.
So in answer to what you just said, this particular individual who wants to put this business in will have to apply for a special use permit
Yes,
and come before the city council.
yes.
And opponents of that will be able to come before the city
Yes.
council. So as I see it, I'm like, Dan, this doesn't, because I share some of the same concerns as the mayor, but if it's a special use permit, then when that person comes up, if we don't like it, we can say no.
Mhm.
And that's kind of,
Mhm. I'll just share my kind of high-level concerns, and that is, I mean, there are large gas station facilities on, Spring Street, several on the kind of the southern part and the northern part. Right now, we're seeing throughout our city some problems with gatherings at gas stations and other kind of large parking lot spaces. And so, really, when we think about the distance, if you're a downtown resident, the distance to one of those gas stations is not very far if you're in a car. I mean, it's a mile this way or that way,
Sure,
right? And so that's where I'm a little wary of, especially the nature of the CBD. But I thank you for the explanation regarding the special use. I think that makes,
And
did
I
have one,
share your concern with regard to the character of the district. This is really, and some folks have heard me say this before, when someone approaches us with something, the first question I ask myself is this really a bad idea? And if it is, we're probably not going to try to encourage them or try to help them along. We're going to be very honest with them. And if they do choose to proceed, we'll let them know this is what you would need to do to set your best chance of success, but the staff can't support it. But in this type of situation, this doesn't commit the staff to any particular project, but it at least makes a path forward for somebody. So from a developer standpoint, business owner standpoint, they can at least say, I've got a chance. I can at least apply for something. Right now, they can't do anything. And that's what I had to tell the guy is it's not allowed. You just can't do it. And essentially this one, he's already there. He's already set up. He's already made financial commitments. Unfortunately, I don't know if he'll be able to get it. He may not get the special use permit, but at least he's got the opportunity to try for it.
I'm just curious, did Old Town Cape, did the city reach out to Old Town Cape or get any input from Old Town Cape?
I think I did. I
to
shared it
this
with
project?
Old Town Cape at the board meeting, and it's difficult for them because they're pro-business, pro all downtown businesses. So from that standpoint, I think, they were okay with it. But from the community character, they probably share some of your concern about, is this going to open the door to big gas stations and things like that? But again, all that is controlled through that special use permit process. There's no commitments made. It just allows someone to apply for it if that's the type of business that they would like to operate on their property.
can you go back to what you just said though, regarding this business is already kind of established or meaning, I mean, can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think they opened up business before they applied for the business license. So,
They opened up with a gas pump or?
this is not a gas station. No, it
Oh,
doesn't
I'm
have
sorry.
fuel.
Yeah. this
Like I
is-
said, that the way we've worded this is to make it possible for certain types of uses, not just specific to that situation. But that's what prompted it. Again, they've got legal counsel. The legal counsel thought that rezoning would be the best course of option. I disagreed. And so she had asked if we would consider this as an alternative. And quite frankly, I personally am much more in favor of something like this than rezoning a property out of CBD, especially to an industrial district. I think that could be disastrous for the district. So again, these are valid points. It's up to you if you want to support that or not. But this would at least give that person and others the opportunity, if they do have that type of business and they want to locate in the CBD, they could, hire an engineer, get their plans together and apply for that special use permit.
Yeah, sure, if Ms. Egger,
So
yep.
in the special use
Can
permit.
you come to the podium? I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
In the special use permit, if the council decides to do that, doesn't that put more liability on them
to where if like somebody who's similar to whoever this is, who probably normally wouldn't fall within the CBD district, doesn't that put more liability on them to say, well, we did it for this people, but we can't for these people?
No, the special use permit it's not precedent setting. It's based on the individual circumstances of the site, kind of like a planned development. It's all based on the specific proposal. So
Legally, you mean there's.
yeah, it's not a legal precedent to say, well, you've allowed it here, therefore you have to allow it in other cases.
That's a good
Again, the
question.
special use permit, we've got criteria. So you remember the staff report from the telecommunication tower. We've got certain criteria that we have to evaluate it according to. So if they don't meet the criteria, staff's not going to recommend approval. Planning and Zoning Commission's probably not going to recommend approval, and you probably won't approve it either.
So this is a service station, a repair shop, a car?
It's a towing business and repair. So if somebody, their engine breaks while they're driving or whatever, they could call this company, they would come tow them to the shop, and then they would make the repairs.
Can you say where it's located?
I think we're
don't know
talking
if I
about
really-
just this is
it is in
just
the
the code.
CBD.
This isn't the individual business license or special use. This is just the code discussion.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Well, it is, but it's odd because
Yes.
there's
I agree.
already a lot of balls rolling in a certain direction. I think
Yes.
that,
we've had this before where people kind of jump. the
Welcome
gun
to
on
my
their
world.
business.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it happens every day, yeah.
We see a lot where people are already off and running, they don't do due diligence, they don't check with us, and then we're left to try to deal with it. So again, we're trying to be developer-friendly, business-friendly to a reasonable extent and say, okay, if this is the direction you want to take, this would allow you the path to move forward, but there's no guarantees. You may not get approved, in which case you've got to figure out what to do. And that's as far as we can really take it.
Well, I appreciate the question, Ms. Edgar. I appreciate your answer, regarding this not setting up legal precedent, but I am concerned it's setting up a kind of a procedural precedent where maybe it's indicating to certain businesses that they can just kind of start their stuff.
Yeah,
and
it may
then-
encourage some folks to apply for one of these type of permits for a use that maybe they would otherwise not consider. That is possible.
Could we table it
If you
for further
would move
discussion or
to-
something?
Are you
If-
making that motion?
Well, I kind of wanted to hear Nate had something to
Oh, sorry,
say.
yeah.
or-
I was just gonna say, I think you need to separate out this current situation as much as we can. I know it was brought up and I know that's but as to what this is actually saying and for the businesses and to give that discretion, we're worried about what the CBD definitions are. Those people that protect that CBD, that have businesses or residences in the CBD, then have the ability to come voice if they support or oppose this through this process, not only to the TIF commission, but then to us as council. And then it's on a case-by-case basis, given the situation, given the property location, given the surroundings, whatever it might be, we'd be able to do it. And the special uses, if you look at all of our zones, our zonings and the special, it is a litany of different special uses in all of these different zones. So this is just adding one extra bullet or maybe two extra bullet points underneath of this specific district and what the potential special uses could be that somebody could apply for, but no guarantee, but it gives that discretion to the surrounding area and to the council for any special use, if it will, that may be necessary for a property. So that, rather than a blanket statement or blanket, statement regulation, I think I'm more in favor of that, being able to have that special consideration of it, so.
I'm sorry.
I was just thinking, what if somebody had an idea for a 1950s style filling station? They had a building they wanted to make really cool with the metal paneling or something like that, this would allow that to happen. Otherwise, we'd have to say, sorry, that's not a project. Even though you'd make it cool and it'd be really neat, that's not allowed. So you've got to find another location.
I did have a question. So if it's a towing facility, auto mechanic, it's not like a long-term storage of
Not an
towed
impound.
vehicles?
It's my
Okay,
understanding this is
gotcha.
not an impound lot and that this would not cover impound lots.
Gotcha. So it's just really an auto repair shop.
Yeah. Now, towing trucks would be stored there. And I think we've already had discussions about those would need to be screened. So they'd probably have some sort of fenced area and all that. So it would just be for the repair business.
I was looking at the zoning map of the CBD. It also covers residential lots, correct? Or,
It's a big district.
Yeah.
I mean, it's roughly from Bellevue and then along Sprigg Street, it goes all the way down almost to 74.
right, there's a
And then,
lot of
course, over to the
residential
river.
lots.
There is. It covers a lot of residential properties.
Okay, so, because it's just blanket CBD,
Mhm.
businesses, houses,
Yes.
whatever,
Mhm.
a house could be used as a business
Mhm.
for, under one of these
That's right.
uses, correct?
Yeah.
So you could have a street with 10 houses
Mhm.
and a,
Right. Yeah, that's the character of the district.
Uh,
It's mixed use. That's historically how it developed. That's kind of what it's based on is, historically in cities,
Mhm.
you had people that had a business and they lived right upstairs or behind it or right next door. Sometimes you'd have a factory right next to some homes. That was just kind of the history, of how cities developed, back then. People kind of were used to those kind of mix of uses, and it did cause some conflicts, and that's what ultimately led to our zoning and nuisance and health laws and all that. So,
Yeah.
but again, that has also is what makes our downtown areas unique, is that they have that kind of mix of uses. If somebody wants to own a business and live upstairs, this is the place to do it. They can't do it anywhere else. You wouldn't want that out on Kings Highway or in,
Right.
one of the residential subdivisions.
I think my big concern is also that, it's the architectural character of the central business district. And frankly, I have a tough time seeing how a car repair business is going to fit in there. If in fact they do something and it looks like a 1950s garage or something, then I'd see that as a positive. But if it's going to look like something out there on Kings Highway, personally, I know I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Well, we already do have car repair in the CBD.
Yeah.
And so it already exists.
Not as much, yeah.
Yeah.
It depends where you put it though.
Yeah. I mean, and I understand the CBD is a massive chunk of property. And so, and it really goes from, we've got open parcels of property and then we've got neighborhoods and other things, but that is sort of that metropolitan environment that it's all just sort of different. That's the glory of the special use permitting process, is that if somebody wants to start a business in between 5 other houses, they have to come to us and prove their point. And so that's kind of why I'm in favor of moving this into that special permitting process, because it gives citizens, it gives us that opportunity to see the plans, understand what they're thinking, understand the character of the neighborhood a little bit more if it's not exactly where we live, and then make an informed decision. Because even just recently with doing that special use for the tower down off of, special uses come up a lot. And because every piece of property is different, every building's different, every development is different. And so I think it needs to be warranted on its own. This person's obviously an entrepreneur and they've jumped in and started doing work. They've got, a business and they're running and they're making a living. And so I think, I don't see a problem with that. I think we should put it in the special use permit.
Yeah.
would you feel the same way if they wanted to set up shop right next to your house?
Sure. I mean, in Ward 1, we've got a lot of kind of mixed, there's a lot of different things mixed in
But in
there.
certain areas.
What do you mean?
Well, again, this could conceivably, be a facility in a, on a residential street.
Sure, but in the CBD, it already could be.
Yeah.
Well, not this. I mean, it's not allowed right now. Vehicle fueling, service, or repair facility.
But there's a lot of things that are.
They could,
They could do a number of other areas in the, in the CBD, other special uses that are in the permit.
Could be a
This is just,
bar. Somebody could put in a bar next door to a
Nursing
house in
homes.
CBD.
yeah.
Libraries, hotels, motels, hospitals, retail, rental. I mean, they could
Transitional
already have
housing.
a whole number of other things, but this gives the discretion for a property of consideration, if the surrounding neighbors don't want it, then they have the ability to come voice their concerns or intervene in the process and have a voice for the consideration of it. So along with, helicopter facilities or anything else, that are in this list
In
currently.
conjunction with the hospital.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Helicopter
Let's-
facilities.
So we can put a helicopter facility in, but we
Yeah.
can't put in a towing.
At a
and-
hospital.
Yeah.
That's, I'm reading point 3, in conjunction with a hospital.
Hey, if you want me to make changes to these other sections, just
I
let me
do-
know. I'll draft it up and get it to you.
I do have a question, Ryan. So if we did not, if we're not in favor of this, can they still continue on in the same process to,
No,
oh, no, they would just.
no, if this gets denied and you don't give us any other direction, then we'll just tell them
Okay.
you
And
have
that's
to,
just.
you
not
have to
just-
shut down and leave. You won't get the business license, and
Okay.
we'll have
Okay.
inspection services go out and notify them that they have
Okay.
to discontinue, cease and desist.
Okay.
There are plenty of commercial, where do gas stations fall? Under commercial districts, commercial zoning?
Yeah, they're permitted in, C1, C2, M1.
Yeah.
So,
I guess you mentioned the joy of the special use, permit. I guess I see this as the joy of zoning. I feel like we're moving in a certain direction.
yeah, it might be a
Maybe,
special use
in
in
my mind, it's
C1.
taking a
I have
step
to
back.
check, but
Sorry?
I said it might be a special use in C1, but definitely C2 and M1.
Yeah.
I think it's permitted by right.
Yeah, anyway.
But this would give this individual, if we pass this, a chance to come forward and
To-
apply for a special use permit. Would not mean that they would necessarily get it, though.
Right.
I think it's going to be a high bar, but.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to you and,
Right.
you'll have the staff recommendation,
Yeah.
you'll have the planning and zoning commission's recommendation, you'll have the input from the public hearing. And so that
Sounds
you've
good.
got all that to consider in deliberating, making your decision on how to vote.
Okay.
And we face this in a number of other, not just central businesses, but there's all the time, there's, daycares looking to operate in their
Sure.
houses in a residential neighborhood that then have to apply for a special use. And then
Yeah.
we've turned some down, or they haven't made it through
Yeah.
planning and zoning, or, because it's not accepted, so.
Well,
Yeah.
Again, this is for gas stations and repair shops.
But we do
For repair
have some in
shops,
the
yeah.
district.
Well, we shouldn't.
No,
It's
we
not
have one at the
approved?
corner, in there, there's some side of auto thing at the corner of Ellis and Broadway.
And there's,
Is
yeah,
that it?
there's
Sinclair, it's not a gas
across from the
station.
old city hall, there's.
Well, and then SEMO Gas would be in the.
Oh,
district
SEMO
on-
Gas,
on
that's
Spring
right.
Street. And then there are other auto repair shops.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know how that's the case.
So, they're probably grandfathered.
Oh, is that,
In this particular area, I think there are some existing ones in that
Mhm.
area.
Yeah.
They're not on Sprague, but they're probably a block or two over. So,
that were grandfathered in?
yeah, they've been there for many years.
I see. All right, I think we're ready to vote. Where are we? Jeez. All in favor then of Bill 23-159, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That would be me. Motion carries. Bill 23-160, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding temporary uses. This is the first reading. Mr. Strickland.
So let me know if you've heard this before. We got a business license application. And it was for kind of a gaming type booth or trailer is what it was. But, that's a temporary use, and then looked in our code. The temporary uses section really kind of is silent on the whole category of, bounce houses and game booths and trailers and all these things you see at events all around town. And so we're proposing to add that into the temporary uses section. We're calling it mobile outdoor recreation facilities. There's a definition there. Movable structures or equipment that are rented for outdoor recreation activities, including inflatable play structures, trampolines, climbing walls, game booths, and trailers, and other facilities of a similar nature. So this would add that into the temporary uses table, subject to regulations, including they'd be permitted on property located in a non-residential zoning district and permitted on property in a residential zoning district as part of a private party or an event hosted by a nonprofit organization. So if a church had a carnival or something like that, it would be permitted. As far as time limit, this was from the staff, maximum of 12 times per 12 consecutive month period, not to exceed 4 consecutive days per time per property. And then there's a couple of just cleanup items, clarification items made to the table. The substantive change is the adding the mobile outdoor recreation facilities.
Any questions from the audience? Anyone wishing to speak? Okay. Hearing none then, council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-160?
So moved.
Mr. Presson,
Second.
second. Mr. Thomas, discussion. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Is this similar to like food trucks, Ryan? Like, is this like similar to the process of?
No,
that?
those fall in a kind of a different category. The CBD, when we amended the CBD a while back, we provided for that. But essentially, there's several different kind of circumstances, you know, is it on private property? Is it on the street? You know, ice cream trucks, things like that. So we've got a set of regulations that we include anytime we get a business license for a food truck. We upload that into the approval on the license so that they're aware of that. But essentially, you know, if it's on property, private property, not in the right of way, it has to be in a district where, you know, restaurant is allowed, because essentially a mobile restaurant, unless it's through an event permit or something like that.
Okay.
So I had a question. Is there a permit that a person would have to get when they have like a party and a bounce house on their property? Or is there a cost involved?
This particular license application was for the provider. So they're going around different areas of the city doing this. So essentially they're doing business in the city, so that's their business license. I don't believe they necessarily need to have a permit for an event unless there's liquor involved, and they would need a temporary caterer's license or something like that. And this would not apply to, you know, if somebody just bought a bounce house for their family and just owned it and kept it on their property, that wouldn't fall under this. This is only for ones where they're rented from businesses for a particular event.
So what were the limits on this one? How long can it be up? 4 days.
Maximum 12 times per 12 consecutive month period, not to exceed 4 consecutive days per time. And that's on a per property
So I
basis.
can't buy a bounce house and put it out somewhere and leave it up for a month and charge people. to come
4
in.
days at the most for that month, and the next month you could do 4 days, et cetera, et cetera.
But you could have it in your backyard,
I could have them, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor then of Bill 23-160, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-161, an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding video service providers franchise fees. This is the first reading. Ms. Mills.
Good evening.
Hello.
So this ordinance amends the Chapter 24 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Cape. It's related to the video service provider franchise fees. We're following statute, which requires that those fees be reduced 0.5% over each. And so we are amending our ordinance in order to follow state statute.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Okay, seeing none then. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-161?
So moved.
Mr. Bliss?
Second.
Mr. Thomas, thank you. Further discussion. So state law by 2027 says that fees cannot exceed 2.5%.
I believe this was part of the use tax, or not the use tax, what was it?
Yes, it is. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, that's what I thought. The ability to vote on the use tax came with this.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we are reducing, we will have a slight reduction in revenues as a result of this, which is always a concern for the city because this goes into the general fund, which supports, as we know, many activities of the city. It is rateable. It's a small 0.5% every year. One would think that there would be other sources of revenues, perhaps increases of other funding that comes into the general fund as well that would offset this slight decline. So just as a number in your head, 0.5% of the revenue projection for this year would be about $19,000.
But is it true that there's more video services providers now than before? When you say video service providers, like who are we
Currently,
talking
there's
about?
2 that
Just
pay
2.
franchise fees to the city. But there are a lot of discussions about others that may be or use the infrastructure of the ones that
Mhm.
exist. So definitely that could change.
Cable versus streaming services, that whole discussion, yeah. Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor then of Bill 23-161, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-162, an ordinance appropriating funds for operating expenditures and capital expenditures for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024 in the city of Cape Girardeau. This is the first reading. Ms. Mills.
So this is an ordinance that adopts appropriation for unappropriated operating and capital expenditures. There's two areas in this. The city, of course, budgets every year, and sometimes through circumstance and certain needs, we find there are unappropriated operating expenditures that need to be addressed, and therefore this is the method for us to get those approved through council. As listed, we have just some general operating expenses for paramedic costs for our firefighters. Also for some firefighter physicals. In the general fund, there are some grant-funded training costs. Those happen frequently in many of our funds when we're awarded a grant. We haven't budgeted the expenditure. Therefore, when we get the grant, we need to budget the expenditure and therefore do the appropriation for it to offset that revenue. We also have some expenses sometimes that have to be covered by insurance. One was a damage to the airport roof. So we can have insurance proceeds, but we need to appropriate the expenditure to fix that roof. The capital expenses that are included here are some grant awarded capital expenditures that we're gonna spend for the fire department. They had several small grants that they received. Collectively, it's $42,000. In addition, we have some capital expenditures that we will appropriate for the Kapaha Tot lot. It's $20,500. We have additional costs of capital for the internal fleet management service. So fleet management has a budget of its own every year, and its costs when we have, sometimes when we find equipment that hasn't been budgeted, it's been hard to find equipment recently. And so those items have been appropriated here out of that fund, that the funds were already there. We just didn't have them appropriated. And last, we have some casino revenue that will be utilized to help us fund some things in the city that we need. One of those is the restoration of the Ivor Square Fountain, which was mentioned earlier today. In addition, there's an opportunity to add an additional fire truck, not a truck, but a tow vehicle used in the fire department, and 3 new police cars.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone in the, did I do this already? I'm sorry. Where are we? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Okay, hearing none then, council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-162?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Presson, Mr. Thomas, thank you. For any further discussion? Council? All right, hearing none then, all in favor of Bill 23-162, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. And then lastly, Bill 23-163, an ordinance accepting a permanent utility easement from 630 Inc. for property located at 2078 Southern Expressway in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's the first reading. Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the last one. This ordinance is needed to accept the easements for the excessive right-of-way that we sold to 6030 Incorporated.
All right. Anyone in the audience wishing to appear for that? Okay, council, then, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-163? Mr. Bliss, Mr. Presson, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor then of Bill 23-163, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. We had one appointment tonight, or one board appointment, 3 members needing to be selected for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And after a vote, the new members are Jerry DeMint, Beverly Evans, and Marianne Maloney. Congratulations to all three of those people.
So moved.
Is there a motion? Yes.
So moved.
Mr. Thomas? Is there a second? Mr. Presson, any further discussion? All in favor then of approving Jerry Dement, Beverly Evans, and Mary Ann Maloney, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, that motion carries.
I had one point of order. I need to mark my vote on the consent agenda for bill number 23-155 as an abstention due to conflict of interest.
Duly noted, thank you. Okay. Other business. We did not have anyone register in time to appear on, in this portion of the meeting from the audience. We do have two items that we need to take care of. One is to set the regular city county council meetings for the 2024 calendar year. There were several dates due to holidays that we needed to change. And so, council, you've been given that information. Is there a motion then to set the regular city council meetings for the 2024 calendar year with the changes? How should we say this? Moving the January 1st and January 15th meetings to January 8th and January 23 respectively. Also moving Monday, February 19th to Tuesday, February 20th, and moving Monday, September 2nd to Tuesday, September 3rd.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Presson.
Second.
Anyone else? Mr. Thomas? Any further discussion? All in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That carries. And then lastly, I had one little housekeeping issue. I'd like to move that we excuse Councilmember Robbie Guard for his third consecutive absence from the regular sessions of the City Council.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Mr. Thomas, thank you. This is, Mr. Guard has not appeared in our regular meetings when we've had the mall development discussions. And so we wanted to give an excuse for his absences. Any further discussion?
I just want to commend his diligence with which he has kept himself removed. Even when we receive all council-wide emails from external sources, he quickly jumps on and removes himself and says, I have to remove myself. And so he has stayed out of any conversation and has been very diligent about that. And I just wanted to commend him for that, so, for an issue this big.
Very good. Any other discussion? All right, then, all in favor then of excusing Robbie Guard for his third consecutive absence, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. We have nothing else on the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Preston, Mr. Bliss, any further discussion? All in favor then of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance tonight.